All right. You'll have a minute and a half per question, except for the lightning round, and then 2.5 minutes on the last question, and I'll tell you as we go.
Okay.
So the first one, minute and a half. What education or experience has prepared you to be New Mexico Attorney General?
Well, the Attorney General is the state's top cop, among other things, but that's really a critical job. I was a prosecutor for 25 years. I started in 1984 here in Albuquerque. I moved to Las Cruces in 1992. I was down there as a prosecutor. I spent a small period of time as a domestic violence hearing officer during that period of time. And for 14 years, I was the Chief Deputy District Attorney in Doña Ana County. In Doña Ana County, we had a fairly large district attorney's office. It doesn't compare to Albuquerque's, but we had anywhere from 70 to 90 employees. Many of those were lawyers. About 25 of them were lawyers, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. And so to be able to supervise a large office, you have to understand that the Attorney General's office is the largest law firm. It's a law firm in the state. And in order to run a law firm, you have to practice law, and you have to know what you're doing when you are getting there. There's going to be lawyers there who have information that you need to be able to process. They're going to be bringing ideas to you that you need to understand how it works. You have to be able to read a brief, understand a brief. I've done all of that. I argued in front of our Supreme Court, and I'm infinitely ready to handle this job.
Thank you. A state's attorney general often sets the tone for how corruption is viewed. For example, if an AG fails to file or prosecute a case in a timely manner, it can be dismissed and can give the impression that the state is corrupt or does not care about corruption. Do you agree or disagree with this statement, and why?
Well, I definitely agree with that statement. We've seen that happen in New Mexico too many times. We had the prosecution of a former Secretary of State. The case was allowed to languish around and ultimately was dismissed by the court for a speedy trial violation. We recently had the case involving the Housing Authority that sat around for 7 years, and much to the shock of all of us regular people couldn't remember 7 years later what it was that happened, and so the case was dismissed because allegedly victims couldn't remember and witnesses couldn't remember what happened. So what you need to do about that is you need to have somebody in there who knows how to do this. I've handled corruption cases. I prosecuted the county clerk in Doña Ana County because he couldn't follow the election law, and he was removed from office for inability to follow the election law. It's a tough job to do that. You get a lot of attention, people are staring at you, they want it to be all about politics, and all you have to do is have the confidence and the know-how to know that you're doing it because it's the right thing. It's critical. When you allow those kinds of things to happen, it not only damages the people of the state of New Mexico, because we are without answers now. We're without answers as to what really happened, who was responsible for the fiasco at the Housing Authority. We're without answers about the Secretary of State and whether she did or did not do things wrong. And on the other hand, she is unable to defend herself in court and clear her name. So she spends the rest of her life with a cloud hanging over her head and everybody pointing at her and going, well, you got off on a technicality. That's not the kind of thing we need. We need to have a strong Attorney General's office to take these cases on, head on, move them quickly, and know what to do if there are issues.
Thank you. Now the lightning round, 30 seconds for each one. Sometimes politicians take a pass rather than taking a stand on controversial issues because they fear repercussions at the ballot box. Realizing that the AG's job is enforcement of laws, not making them, please use 30 seconds or less and tell us your position on the following issues. Legalizing marijuana.
I oppose legalizing any kind of controlled substance, but I will tell you that I think we have a huge advantage in this state and that Colorado has gone ahead and done what they've done, and we can watch to see what happens. We've done this, we can watch our sister state, and we've seen there are issues there that they did not anticipate. So this is a wonderful time for us to watch and see. I think it's going to prove that I'm correct in opposing the legalization of a controlled substance, including marijuana.
Thank you. Driver's licenses for illegal immigrants.
That is a problem of proportions that we just really can't even begin to comprehend. I believe that we need to make sure that our officers, when they stop somebody driving, knows who they're dealing with. And so we can give them driver's licenses, maybe look different, but I think they shouldn't be given driver's licenses at all. One of the things that's been happening is we've seen that people are coming from all over the country to get those licenses here because people all over the country, bad people, know that this is a place where you can just walk in, get a driver's license, and then you look like a U.S. citizen. And that's caused huge problems.
Thank you. Voter ID.
We need voter ID, there's no question. When I walk in sometimes to vote myself, if you whip out your license or anything with your picture on it, actually sometimes makes the poll workers nervous because they've just become convinced that you're not supposed to be even allowed to look at an ID. Just announcing your name is just simply not enough. I have seen voter fraud as a result of the inability to ask somebody for a photo ID. It just isn't difficult for people to get those, and if that's the issue, then let's make it easier.
Thank you. Minute and a half. There are issues that come up where federal agencies such as the Bureau of Land Management and the Environmental Protection Agency take action that may be against what is best for New Mexicans. There are cases where the New Mexico Attorney General could take action to protect New Mexicans, such as closing down half of the San Juan generating plant, but no action has been taken. What will your position be as the New Mexico Attorney General regarding similar issues?
You know, when I first started to move to New Mexico and I was in law school, people would come up to me and they'd go, oh, you're going to Arizona. And we all know the stories. One of our 50 is missing. And I think it's really time for New Mexico to stand up for New Mexico. And that's one of the things we haven't been doing. We allow the federal government to run over us. We allow them to boss us around. What's right in New Mexico may not be what's right in Georgia, but it's time to have an attorney general who has the nerve to stand up and say, you know what, federal government, we're not going to take it anymore. We know it's better for New Mexico. We know it's right for our citizens, and we're going to stand up and tell you no when it's right to tell you no. We have rights as a state, and it's time for us to be on the map. Texas stands up for itself, Arizona stands up for itself, and New Mexico just gets plotted over. So I don't want one of our 50 to be missing anymore. I want us to be a state that everybody takes a look at and goes, wow, they really know what's going on in New Mexico, and that's a place to be proud of.
Thank you. In an Albuquerque Journal Q&A, you recently said, rampant political corruption has left us with a system that benefits a small, powerful few over the needs of the many. Given the fact that there could be corruption in either political party, including allegations against the administration currently in office, please explain how you will handle this.
Well, with political corruption, you just have to have nerve, number one, and you have to know how to handle those sorts of cases where there's a lot of pressure because it's political. Because I don't have any higher political aspirations, I'm not going to be concerned about whether the Republicans like me or the Democrats like me. I just want to be the Attorney General for the 8 years that I'm allowed to be Attorney General. Then I want to go play with my grandchildren some more. So really, that makes it easier. Now, if it involves someone that I have a close personal relationship, then what you do, I mean, it's sort of a simple way to put it, but you really have to look at cases to see if they pass the smell test. If you get a queasy feeling that you might not be able to be fair about something, then you have to say, I can't be fair. That was really one of the things that happened with the prosecution of Rebecca V. Hill Herron, the Secretary of State, was that Gary King wasn't willing to just admit that he had a conflict. So you just have to have not only the nerve to prosecute the case, but the guts to say, I can't and I need to bring in somebody else to handle this. And that's really all it is. It's not about politics, and it shouldn't be about politics. Republican, Democrat, decline to state, everybody's held to the same standard in the law, and we just have to make sure that there's somebody willing to take that on.
Thank you. 2.5 minutes. Please tell the hiring committee why you believe you are the best candidate for the position of New Mexico Attorney General.
As a hiring committee, I think that anybody who's looking at an employee to hire, and that's really what we're doing here, is you want to look at somebody with the most experience. The job is Attorney General. The qualifications for this job do not include, I held another office. It includes knowing what you're doing as a practicing attorney. I've been an attorney since 1984. I've been practicing law. Again, as I said, I've argued in front of the Supreme Court. I've written briefs. I've done all those things. These are critical times in New Mexico. You need someone who can hit the ground running. I've worked with law enforcement statewide. I was just endorsed by 23 sheriffs in this state saying that's the person we need up there. That's who we need to guide law enforcement, which is one of the critical jobs and one of the ones we all know is really necessary in this state. We need to get law enforcement back on track. We need to hit the ground running for this water lawsuit. We need to stand up and say no to those who are taking our lands without our permission. So all of those things I'm prepared to do, and I've been practicing doing those forever. You know, it's funny that lawyers talk about how they practice doing what they're doing. Really what it is we're just in there fighting hard. I prosecuted every kind of case there is. When those cases that have been tried so hard, the district attorneys around the state have worked so hard to convict somebody, you want somebody in the Attorney General's office who knows what it's like to have stood in the trenches, so that when that case comes up on appeal and the Attorney General's office takes it over and the district attorney no longer has a say-so in what goes on, and that needs to be fixed. There needs to be communication between them. That you know you have someone there who knows what it's like to have stood in the trenches and knows what it's like to say, you know, if I make this argument, it's going to change something over here, so I need to be careful. Who's willing to talk to the district attorneys around the state and get their input. Who isn't so egotistical that they're afraid to say, you know what, district attorney from the 2nd, you might be right about that, and I need to think about what I'm doing. So all of the qualifications, I've spent years building up to this. I didn't even know I was building up to this because I had never planned to do anything like this. This opportunity came along after I retired, and I realized that I could either shut up or I could stand up. And I wasn't going to shut up and stop complaining, so I thought I better stand up. I'm clearly the most qualified candidate for this. I have the most experience, and that's what you want in your Attorney General. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.